Hey everybody, welcome back. This is another deck tech brought to you by Low Life Plays. This one is going to be Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir. This one is our Esper Knight commander. So essentially what he does is he's got that busted eminence, but it's for Esper Knights, so I think we're okay with that. Essentially when you attack with one or more knights, if he's in the command zone or in play, you lose. So you draw and then discard. He has flying first strike, but if you do play him, he does have incentive to be in play, and he deals combat damage. You can return a knight from your graveyard to the battlefield. So let's just jump into some knight stuff. Alright, that's Sidar. We got some card draw here. So we got Painful Truths. We are in 3 colors, so we do get the full benefit of Painful Truths, so that's nice to run. Read the Bones, pretty classic. Scry 2, draw 2, lose 2. Got some targeted removal with Path, Swords, and then I also run Void Rend. It's nice to have a destroy a target non-land permanent that can't be countered. And then we got Arcane Signet, Soul Ring as classic ramp. And then we got some utility cards here. So Rowan's Grim Search has Bargain. So if it's Bargain, look at the top 4 cards of your library, then put 2 of them back on top of your library in any order, rest in your graveyard. So we have synergies with our grave, and it just lets you draw 2 and lose 2. It's pretty nice, a little bit of card selection there. Chivalric Alliance, really, really powerful in our deck. I mean, it came in the precon, and you see why, right? Like this one, whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, you draw a card, or you can pay 2 to discard, and make a 2/2 knight with vigilance. So it can be really nice, like last minute to, or in preparation for Sidar to deal combat damage. You can discard a powerful knight with an ETB effect, and then just there's a lot of synergistic parts, but the card draw alone is worth the 2 mana investment. All right, so Teferi's Ageless Insight and Thought Reflection. So these 2 cards are serving the same purpose with what we're trying to build. Whenever you would draw a card, draw another card. So this one excludes the first one you draw, but Thought Reflection doesn't. But we're using that in conjunction with Sidar Jabari's Loot ability, where you draw a card, discard a card, but now you're drawing 2 cards, discard 1 card. So really powerful. I know that costs a lot, but really powerful, just draw doublers. Knight's Charge, one of the cards that got me interested in building knights in the first place. It's just super fun and interesting. Whenever a knight you control attacks, doesn't even have to deal combat damage. Each opponent loses 1 life, so you can start swinging at one player and drain other people, and you gain life. But it's also pay 8 ability to return all knight creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it does stuff on the board, has a secondary use, very, very good. Herald's Horn, just classic typal thing. It's going to reduce the cost of our knights, and then in addition to that, it lets us have a little bit more card advantage where we're looking at the top card and adding it to our hand if it's a knight. Unbreakable Formation. Just gain indestructible. That's really why it's in here. You could slot in into Teferi's if you wanted to up the power, or have some more stuff for indestructible boards. But we have a lot of grave recursion ability, so I think we're pretty okay most of the time, at least in my eyes. Skyhunter Strike Force, flying melee. Having a flying knight is very nice. And then as long as you control your commander, other creatures you control have melee. So you just when you're spreading out that damage, you can just get stronger. Really, really good. I would suggest maybe getting not the full art version. I think the non-full art version has the full explanation of melee, because I often forget, because I never use it, so I always have to look it up when it's in my hand. And then this was one of the other things that really prompted me to swing into the knight direction here. It's just these lots of cheap knights that have first strike or double strike, and they have like hexproof or protection from colors, and I was like, that's a lot of keywords, and seems pretty fun to build a whole strategy of combat around it. So Knight of Grace is a good example here, with first strike, hexproof from black. Gets +1/+0 as long as any player controls a black permanent, so you will most likely do that too, so it just gets stronger. Has so much utility. Guardian of Faith is very shiny, but he's just nice as a board protection. Just allows any other number of creatures you control to phase out. Has Flash and Vigilance. Really good protection for us. Kinsbell Cavalier. Knights have double strike. What's better than first strike? Double strike. There's a newer one from Modern Horizons 3. I like him. He's a menacing. He costs 4 for a 2/3, so meh. But he connives, which can coincide with some of our draw and discard mechanics, so that's just kind of nice, and he just gets stronger. And him just being a 2/3 menace is pretty nice, because we have a lot of wide buffs for our types, so that menace keyword is really nice. Adeline, she's Adeline, right? She's so broken, so powerful, especially in this type of a creature go wide deck. And ours is kind of a combination of wide and tall, right? We always have like maybe 4 or 5 creatures, and then we have lots of buffs. We have a lot of enchantment buffs and creature buffs, and Just the first strike really helps keep us alive, and the vigilance from being white. So pretty cool. She's just a beast. Her vigilant ability and just having so much power is awesome. Acclaimed Contender. This is just more card selection. When it ETBs, you look at the top 5 cards, you reveal a knight or an aura, which we don't really have that. But we're really just add a knight to your hand. It's pretty good. Falmir Knight. I like this card for its flexibility. Typically it's just it's a draw card, lose a life, and then you have a 1/1 body with Death Touch. So it can often just, in the early game, just be out there fending for you. Here's some of the buffs we were talking about. So Marshal of Zhalfir. Other knights you get have +1/+1, and then he can tap to tap down defenders. There's not really, I can't think of another reason you want to tap your stuff, but, he just has pay 2. I'm a buff. I'm going to tap the biggest blocker your opponent has, or whatever, maybe a Death Touch or something that can stop us, and it really helps. Knight of Dusk Shadow, just utility, right? It's another menace hitter, 2/2, so he's evenly costed, and he also makes it so your opponents can't gain life. And then you can also, at the end game, he has a mana sink, so he just has a lot of different things that we can work with, so I really enjoyed him. Battle Angels of Tyr, it is a knight, and it's just a strong knight, right? It's a 4 mana, it's evenly costed 4/4 flyer, so having flyers is important for us, just because, we don't have a ton of that, so just having as much as we can get on good bodies is really good. And then it has so many abilities. It's Myriad. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you have some potential card draw. You have treasure token creation. You have some life gain. Really a lot of value. Mirian Crusader. Super interested card. I loved this whole idea back in Scars of Mirrodin. Really, really cool. This guy's got double strike, pro black, pro green. So he's just a big beater. And then if you just buff him up, he becomes a very, very scary threat. Exsanguinator Cavalry came in the same set, or something like that. He has Menace, Lifelink. Whenever a knight you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature and create a blood. So it has some draw synergy too, and just some good stuff for 3 mana. Menace, Lifelinker. Herald of Hoofbeats, one of our strongest lords that we have. He gives all of our knights horsemanship, which is pretty much just gives all knights unblockable. Very, very good. And it itself has horsemanship, so that's cool. And then here's one of the more protection ones, right? Black Knight. 2 mana, 2/2, first strike, pro white. Just really, really good stats. Changeling Outcast. It's a knight that can't be blocked. What else do we need? Sky Hussar. This one is one I've been debating taking out, but like I said, the flying is really good, and then being able to just tap 2 creatures to draw a card while he's in your hand. I have used it pretty frequently, and it does seem to come in pretty nice, so I don't know. I don't really know where I stand on him. I think he's pretty good, though. Westfold Rider, this is a newer one. Not for releasing, but for the deck. I just threw this in. Westfold Rider, sacrifice it, destroy target artifact or enchantment, activate only as a sorcery. As a 2 mana 3/1 that we can often give double strike to, that's really good, and then just having removal on a body is just nice, so I liked his utility to just be removal. Silverwing Squadron, really powerful, plus with our recursion, I might mention, with stuff like Silver Rider where you sack it, we can get it back with Jabari, so, what are we going to do? I think it's good. Silverwing Squadron, flying, vigilance, it's a big boy. Its power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control, and then whenever it attacks, though, you make a 2/2 token with vigilance equal to the number of opponents you have. So when it attacks, it buffs itself by 3, if things haven't gone too crazy. And you can get this out very early just by discarding it and bringing it back with Sidar. Hakan, he's a backup for Jabari's other ability, right? You can only cast him from your graveyard, but you can pitch him very easily whenever you attack with any knight. Even if he's in your command zone, you still get the loot ability. So you just pitch Hakan, cast Hakan from the graveyard, and then now you can play knights from your graveyard. So just so much synergy. That's why he was in the precon. White Knight, opposite of Black Knight. First strike, but pro-black. Knight of the Ebon Legion. This guy is a classic all-star. He's a 1 mana 1/2. You can buff himself by 3/3 and gain Death Touch. And at the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, he gets a 1/1 counter. So he can just get stronger while he beats people. Really good. Murderous Rider, classic adventure. Just destroy target creature or planeswalker. So the planeswalker flexibility is nice, and then you just lose 2 life. But the cool thing here is it's a 3-costed 2/3 lifelinker, so that's nice. And then when Murderous Rider dies, it goes to the bottom of your library. Knight of the White Orca, just an old school white ramp spell. So I like it in here. The ramp is nice, but I mainly threw it in here because it's a knight with first strike. And I was trying to go with as many knights with first strike as I could find. It just felt good. Unsettled Mariner, just a little bit of ward on all of our knights. Vidalian Wave Knight, crazy card. Crazy in this deck. It goes so wild, especially if anyone has you draw any cards. It just goes incredibly badly for them. You know, whenever you draw a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other merfolk or knight you control. So it can just seriously start buffing it up. Or, you know, you have your own draw synergies, so you're going to be buffing them either way. Really strong for only 4 mana for a 3/3 that does that. That's... Whew. Alright, we're running all 3 of the Cavaliers, right? So we're running Cavalier of Gales, which is some card draw, and a flying. So, you know, they're all 5 cost, close to evenly costed cards. This is a 5 costed 5/5 flyer. When it ETBs, you draw cards, and then you put 2 in your put 2 cards from your hand on top, and then when it dies, you shuffle it and get scries. But it's a strong one, and any ETBs are really nice for Sidar, so we can just abuse that with his discard and reanimate ability. Cavalier is, this one's probably definitely the weaker of the 3 that we're running, just because these 2 have some very strong abilities. This one has ETB, destroy 1 target non-land permanent, and they get a golem, and then when it dies, you get an artifact or enchantment, so if they blow up, or maybe we blew up one of our enchantments that has a sack ability or something like that, you know, Cavalier of Dawn is there to get that back. And then Cavalier of Night is a lifelinking guy, which is nice, and then when he ETBs, you can sack a creature, and when I do, you destroy a target creature, so it's more removal on an ETB body, which is great. And then when it dies, you return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard, which could be anything you want. You know, a lot of our stuff that's very useful is good, but gives us lots of options for more recursion. Valiant Knight. Other knights get +1/+1, so we just buff our little knights across the board, which is super useful. Then you can pay 5 to give knights double strike, like we were talking about earlier, where we do have a lot of ways to give our knights double strike or wide-spreaded buffs. Quinde, Pride of Femeref? I'm not super sure. But it has double strike, and then creatures you control with first strike now have double strike. So that's kind of one of the ways I went into the first strike. I was trying to lean hard into that, just because he makes your first strikers double strike, which is super cool. Knight of Malice. It's the opposite of the other knight in the beginning, the Knight of Grace, I think it was. First strike, hexproof from white, and then he gets +1/+0 as long as any player controls a white permanent. Fiendslayer Paladin, just such awesome. I love the art on it, very, very knightly. But first strike again, lifelink, and then when he can't be the target of black or red spells your opponents control. So just more interesting knights with protection. For Rexian Crusader, this guy, wild card, man. First strike, pro red and white, and infect. So he is definitely a threat that will probably be addressed as soon as your opponents can. Because if you have all those buffs going and you just have this big pro creature first striker infector, it's bad news. Knight Exemplar. This is a first striking knight that gives all of our other knight creatures +1/+1 and indestructible. Probably one of our best lords for sure. This is a new one that just came out in Assassin's Creed. It has protection from assassins. It gives other knights you control +2/+2 and pro from assassins, which I don't know if that will ever come up that much. Might right now because of the Assassin's Creed set, but really it's just a 4 mana +2/+2 knight buff. But it also, when it ETBs, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls until he leaves play. So another powerful ETB that we can recur with Sidar. Getting us into our enchantment package, right? So we're running Etchings of the Chosen. This one is super, super flexible. You know, you choose knights, creatures you control get +1/+1, and then paying 1, sack a creature, and then make a target creature indestructible. So incredibly flexible. I love using this card. Adaptive Automaton. You know, we're going to choose Eldrazi. No, we're going to choose knights, even though we want Eldrazi probably. No. You just choose your knights, and then it's a knight, and then it gives other knights +1/+1. Another just buffer. Circle of Loyalty, it's a really good buff, and then it also just is incredibly thematic for us, right? This spell costs 1 less for each knight you control, and then creatures get +1/+1. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, make knights with vigilance, and you can pay 4 and tap it to make knights. So, really good. Radiant Destiny. This one has Ascend. You choose knights when it ETBs, and then as long creatures you control get +1/+1, and then they get Vigilance if you have the City's Blessing. For 3 mana, it's such a powerful enchantment. Rally the Ranks. Just pretty good stuff. Just a pretty classic buff. This one's one of the battles that I do really recommend, and I think it just has such a great home in Knights. Invasion of Phyrexia. when invasion of New Phyrexia ETBs create X 2/2 white blue knight tokens with vigilance, and what we're really after here is to get it to flip to Teferi, and then you just want a -2. You know, you just want emblems. You get an emblem with knights you control, get +1/+0, and have ward 1. So strong. Such a powerful ability for us to get to. You know, I've had it happen where if you have a board state, you flip Teferi, and then you give yourself an emblem, and then you can even just kill him right after that and get another emblem. And then all your knights have +2/+0 and ward 2. Very, very, very strong. Virtual Loyalty. I mean, even if it didn't do good stuff, I like the name enough to maybe throw it in. But you can pay 2, instant speed, make a knight with vigilance, which is cool. But at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, untap them. Just so good. That card is very, very strong. Vanquisher's Banner. Classic. You know, creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. Whenever you cast a creature spell of that type, though, draw a card. That's where the money is at. And then this is one of our only non-knights. So the Council of 4 felt thematic to run, and it's just a great blocker, an 0/8 for 5, and then it makes knights. So whenever a player draws their second card, you get to draw, and then whenever a player casts their second spell, you make a knight. So I liked it because of that. And it just felt nice, the Council of 4. But I might take it out for Shay. You know, I like this guy. He is a knight, and he has a lot of flexibility. We just don't really target a ton of things. Like, we do, but I don't know if it's enough for Shay. I don't know. It seems good. Not super sure, though. Patriarch's Bidding. You know, we're a typal deck, so having a way to recur by type is very strong. And then our big win con here is Moonshaker Cavalry. It's a knight, baby. When I saw this card spoiled, I was like, oh, yes, for the knights. There's a big Crater Hoof that is also a knight and in white. Oh, so good. Gives them flying, makes them huge, wins the game if you are able to resolve it. All right, now we're getting to our lands. So we're running Contaminated Landscape, we're running Fell the Profane, Bajuka Bog, and Ministerith. These are probably our other category lands. I like this one because it's, you know, flexible removal, but it's not on a tap land. Contaminated can really color fix. Graveyard Hate is important, and then just card draw. Really, really good cards for, you know, our land slots. Lands are getting more and more powerful. So Command Tower, Arcane Sanctum, running Secluded Courtyard, and Unclaimed Territory. So these are our flex lands that will be any color that we really need them to be. And they're running Temple of Enlightenment, Prairie Stream, and Port Town. These are our blue-white lands. Running Shine, Shadow, Snarl. Running Restless Fortress. This one I really like. I mean, this is thematic, a choice for me. You know, I know it's a tap land, but I just like the Restless Fortress for the knights. Temple of Silence. These are our white-black lands. Running Sunken Hollow, Tainted Isle, and Choked Estuary. These are our dimmer lands. And then we're going to be running... I had that swamp misplaced, so we'll just go into that first. Look at all of our pretty little swamps. These guys look like the viruses from Jimmy Neutron, the movie, or one of the shows. I don't remember what it is, but that's what I think of every time I see it. So, I don't know, I thought I'd share that with you. So we're running 9 swamps. We're definitely focusing on, for our basics, for black and white. So we're only running 3 islands at the moment. And then white is one of our more important colors, especially for our early game. So we're running about, 9? Yeah, so we're running 9 planes. And I liked the Phyrexian art. Looks crazy on camera. You can't really see what's going on there, but they got that little Phyrexian symbol. They look great. So that, all in all, will make it for our night video. I hope you enjoy. This deck is definitely... it's pretty swingy, you know, if you're looking for something combat focused, but a little bit different, and you want to play some knights. I really had a great time building this deck, and I have a great time piloting it. It's very, very punchy and very, very fast. So if you like this video, just, you know, push that button, like it there, comment down below if, you know, if you have any cool insights, or if you think I should do that swap with Shay, or anything else down below. And if you like me enough, subscribe to the channel and don't miss a deck tech, because I'm tearing apart, ripping them out, and pushing out these decks because I love deck building. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!